July 11th, 2025, 4:20 a.m., Red Sea, 180 miles north of the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. A dark sky hung over one of the world's busiest shipping lanes. Below, the U.S. Navy supply ship USNS Liberty Star pushed through calm waters, carrying precision weapons and vital equipment bound for Israel. Suddenly, the calm shattered. A swarm of armed drones and guided bombs, launched from Yemen's Houthi-controlled coastline, cut across radar screens. Within seconds, alarms blared. A drone slammed into the rear deck, erupting into fire and shrapnel. The ship shuddered under the impact, forcing sailors to rush to battle stations. This was no ordinary pirate raid. It was a deliberate strike on America's lifeline, its military supply chain, and it came not from a superpower, but from one of the poorest militias in the Middle East. If a small insurgent group can hit a U.S. Navy ship, what does that mean for future wars? Stay with us, because in the next few minutes we'll uncover the secret weapons behind the strike, the intelligence gaps that allowed it to happen, and how America struck back with overwhelming force. The attack began without warning. At 4:19 a.m., the ship's radar picked up what looked like fishing drones, small, low-flying, and moving fast. Within 30 seconds, signals jammed across multiple frequencies. Bridge officers realized this was no accident. All hands, battle stations, echoed through the Liberty Star. Sailors sprinted to defensive positions, gripping fire hoses, closing watertight doors, and powering up the Phalanx CIWS. From the Yemeni coastline, 5 unmanned aerial vehicles launched in tight formation. These weren't hobby drones. They carried shape-charge warheads and GPS navigation modules, hardware resembling Iranian-made Shahed units. 2 drones dropped altitude, skimming just above wave level to avoid radar lock. Another climbed sharply, releasing a guided bomb designed to pierce the ship's deck plating. The first blast shook the aft section, tearing into a container filled with spare rotor blades for Black Hawk helicopters. Sparks and shrapnel sprayed into the dark sky, triggering automatic sprinklers. A second drone banked left, but was intercepted mid-air by a wall of 20-millimeter rounds from the CIWS, metal raining into the sea. Crew members reported 0 casualties in the first minute, but adrenaline spiked. One petty officer later said, "It felt like we were in the middle of a war zone, but the enemy wasn't even visible, just shadows and alarms." The drone's origin became clear. Launch sites inside Houthi territory near Al-Hudaydah, known for its coastal missile batteries and drone workshops. U.S. analysts later confirmed the drones carried commercial Chinese chips and improvised Iranian guidance systems. A cheap but deadly combination. By 4:23 a.m., the immediate threat was neutralized, but the symbolic damage was already done. A U.S. Navy ship tasked with supporting Israel's war effort had been struck by a militia once dismissed as ragtag rebels. The shock spread up the chain of command within minutes. In Bahrain, Fifth Fleet officers stared at live feeds of the burning container deck, realizing this was a strategic warning shot, and Washington took it personally. The first seconds after impact felt endless. The crew of USNS Liberty Star had trained for missile and drone attacks, but few expected to face one in real combat. Now, training met reality. Layer 1, Phalanx CIWS. The ship's 20-millimeter Gatling gun roared, spinning up to 4,500 rounds per minute. A wall of tungsten tore the second drone apart mid-air, flaming debris splashing harmlessly into the Red Sea. The gunners didn't cheer, they kept scanning for more threats. Layer 2, Electronic Warfare. The Liberty Star's jamming suite activated, flooding frequencies used by the incoming drone's guidance systems. One UAV spiraled out of control, crashing into the waves before reaching the ship. Layer 3, Damage Control. Fire suppression teams, already stationed at key points, rushed aft. Foam blanketed the burning container, preventing a chain reaction. Pumps activated, sealing off vulnerable compartments. Within minutes, the flames were under control. Inside the Combat Information Center, Commander Lewis kept his voice steady. "Status? No casualties, sir. Ship remains operational. It was the confirmation everyone needed. By 4:25 a.m., the immediate assault was over. The Liberty Star still floated, engines humming, mission intact. The crew had faced their first real combat and walked away unscathed. But the attack changed everything. It proved that even a low-budget militia with improvised Iranian and Chinese technology could threaten U.S. naval logistics. And in Washington, that was unacceptable. Orders came fast. Identify launch sites, prepare for retaliatory strike. For the Houthis, what had begun as a symbolic attack on America's supply chain was about to invite a response they had never seen before. By 4:40 a.m., the Liberty Star had stabilized. The fire was out, the ship's systems were intact, and the crew was safe. But halfway around the world, a storm was already forming. At the U.S. Fifth Fleet headquarters in Bahrain, screens lit up with satellite feeds and radar telemetry. Analysts pinpointed the attack's origin: 3 launch sites near Al Hudaydah on Yemen's western coast. One site matched previously known coordinates for a Houthi drone workshop supplied with Iranian components. Intelligence fusion, cyber teams from U.S. Cyber Command quickly confirmed GPS manipulation techniques linked to Iranian military advisors. Recovered drone fragments revealed Chinese-made navigation chips, cheap, accessible, and deadly when combined with improvised explosives. This was no fluke. It was a deliberate escalation. Strategic call. Rear Admiral Carter, commander of Task Force 59, made the call. We can't let this stand. Prepare a retaliatory package. Mobilization. 2 FA-18E Super Hornets were ready to board USS Gerald R. Ford. P-8 Poseidon aircraft launched for ISR, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance support. A submarine, USS Florida, shifted to strike position, its tubes loaded with Tomahawk cruise missiles. Washington gave rapid authorization under standing rules of engagement for hostile drone and missile threats. The Pentagon briefed Congress and Israel within the hour, emphasizing one message: America will protect its supply lines. Meanwhile, Liberty Star's onboard intelligence unit collected valuable debris from the intercepted drones. Within hours, these samples would confirm Iranian guidance systems and potentially Russian-coded software patches, deepening the geopolitical implications. This was no random militia strike. It was a clear attempt to send a message. America's presence in the Red Sea was vulnerable. Washington's reply would not be symbolic. It would be overwhelming. 18:30 local time, July 11th, 2025. The Red Sea sky glowed orange from the setting sun, but on the flight deck of USS Gerald R. Ford, the mood was cold and focused. 2 FA-18E Super Hornets thundered off the catapult, their afterburners lighting up the dusk. Below the waves, USS Florida, a nuclear-powered attack submarine, adjusted its course, its tubes armed with Tomahawk cruise missiles programmed for precision strike. Target Package Alpha, 3 Houthi launch sites near Al Hudaydah, a drone storage hangar, and a hardened command post believed to host Iranian advisors. T-5 minutes. Tomahawks broke the surface, climbing to low cruise altitude before dropping to sea-skimming height. Each missile rode GPS and terrain-matching radar, weaving under enemy detection. Impact 1843. The first Tomahawk smashed into the command node, detonating a 1,000-pound warhead. The second struck the drone hangar, igniting fuel and ammunition. Seconds later, the Super Hornets released JDAM-ER precision bombs, guided by GPS coordinates fed from a P-8 Poseidon overhead. Explosions lit the Yemeni coastline, captured live by ISR drones. Plumes of fire and smoke billowed hundreds of feet high, visible from fishing villages miles away. Enemy response: sporadic anti-aircraft fire, mostly outdated Soviet-era guns, barked uselessly at the night sky. One Houthis' surface-to-air missile tried to track an FA-18, but was decoyed by flares, missing wide. Onboard USS Gerald R. Ford commanders watched real-time satellite feeds. Direct hits confirmed, secondary explosions, multiple. The room exhaled as if one giant breath had been held for hours. By 1900 hours, all aircraft were safely recovered. No U.S. casualties, no collateral civilian damage. The Pentagon released official imagery hours later, before and after satellite shots showing craters where launch sites once stood. The message was unambiguous. Strike America's fleet, and your infrastructure vanishes overnight. For the Houthis, the strike crippled critical drone operations for weeks. For Washington, it was more than revenge. It was a strategic reset, proving that even in an age of cheap drones, the U.S. still held overwhelming dominance. But the attack also raised a chilling question. If militias can hit a Navy ship today, what happens when a peer adversary tries tomorrow? The strike and counterstrike over the Red Sea were more than a localized skirmish. They were a window into the future of warfare. For years, the U.S. military focused on peer threats, China's naval expansion in the Pacific, and Russia's aggression in Europe. Yet, the attack on USNS Liberty Star revealed something unsettling. Even the smallest militias, armed with cheap drones and improvised missiles, could threaten billion-dollar supply chains. Intelligence from the recovered drone fragments painted an even darker picture. Guidance chips traced back to Chinese civilian suppliers, their firmware patched with Russian-developed encryption modules and assembled in workshops run by Iranian military advisors inside Yemen. This wasn't just a rebel strike, it was a proxy experiment in modern warfare. China, while officially neutral in the conflict, has been accused of turning a blind eye to the export of dual-use technology. Russia, bogged down in Eastern Europe, allegedly provided software expertise to disrupt U.S. electronic warfare systems. Iran, facing its own sanctions, has long treated Yemen as a testing ground for asymmetric warfare. For Washington, the message was blunt. The next war might not start with aircraft carriers. It could start with a $20,000 drone swarm. Pentagon planners responded with urgency, unveiling a $2.3 billion supplemental package for counter-drone systems, directed energy weapons, and cyber defenses. The White House briefed NATO allies and Israel, framing the incident as proof that supply lines, not just combat forces, are now primary targets. The strike against Houthi launch sites restored deterrence in the short term, but strategically it raised bigger questions. How deep is China's and Russia's involvement in proxy conflicts? Could future flashpoints, Taiwan, Ukraine, or the Persian Gulf, see similar low-cost, high-impact attacks? The Red Sea attack wasn't just a warning shot. It was a signpost for a world where war can be cheap, fast, and global. When the smoke cleared over the Red Sea, one fact was undeniable. Warfare has changed. The Houthis, once dismissed as a ragtag militia, had demonstrated the power of low-cost, high-impact weapons. One drone, costing less than a luxury car, had forced the world's most advanced navy to react with overwhelming force. The U.S. response was decisive. Launch sites were destroyed, command networks crippled, and the message sent loud and clear: attack our fleet, and your military infrastructure will cease to exist. Yet, beneath the success lay a sobering truth. If an insurgent group can strike a U.S. Navy ship today, what happens when a state actor, backed by billions and advanced technology, decides to do the same tomorrow? This incident is more than a headline. It's a lesson for America and its allies. Protect supply lines as aggressively as front lines. Invest in next-generation defenses, counter-drone lasers, AI-enabled early warning, and hardened logistics. Recognize that proxy wars are no longer small wars. They are proving grounds for future conflict. For everyday Americans, it's a reminder that national security isn't an abstract debate. It's real, it's evolving, and it affects the safety of every soldier and every shipment crossing oceans. If you believe in truth, readiness, and protecting those who serve, then share this story. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications. Together, we'll continue uncovering the realities of modern warfare and why the next battle might not start on a battlefield, but in the shadows of global trade routes.